I'm 33 years old, and my wife is 35 years old, no kids, and we have been married for 5 years, together for 10 years. We are your average couple that has their ups and downs. Life over the past couple of years has gotten harder, especially coming out of lockdown, living on top of each other, and being isolated away from family. I never had a reason nor any indication that my wife was ever unfaithful. But a couple of years ago, I noticed my wife using Snapchat more than usual. Curiosity got the better of me, and I looked one day when she left her phone unattended. I looked at her recent sent list and found a male's name. Let's call him Seb. In her Snapchat list, it showed Seb with a heart emoji. I Googled what the heart meant, and it means they have been messaging every day for 2 weeks. I then went onto my social media and noticed that Seb followed my wife on a couple of platforms and vice versa. He liked one photo of my wife in a bikini, and she liked every single photo of his on his social media, which is strange as she's not very active on social media. I confronted my wife regarding my concerns and asked the question as I wanted to be honest with her. She dismissed my line of questioning, stating that it was just a guy she met on a night out, and that was that. She specifically stated that she hasn't spoken to him since that night. I accepted what she said. However, our intimacy life also tanked at this point, and we barely were intimate with each other. Some time went by, and I forgot all about it. I came home from work to find my wife had left her social media open on the home computer, and her messages were open. I went to close it. However, I noticed Seb had messaged, and the message basically read, "How is everything at home, dare I ask?" I again felt lied to. I didn't bring this issue up with my wife, mainly because I was scared to. Again, some time went by. I bought my wife a new iPad. I'm not an Apple person, so I asked for a shot of it to see what it's like. I was messing around on it and opened the photos. She's taken multiple photos of her breasts and private parts. I asked her about this, and she explained she only took them to see what they look like. By this point, we were just not having intimacy at all. I couldn't help but notice her intimacy toy collection was increasing, however. Again, I forgot about Seb and carried on. I came home from work again, and my wife had left the PC on, and her emails were open. This time I did check, and I noticed Seb had emailed my wife with attachments. It was voice notes of him reading erotica and at the point of climax, asking for the person in the book to climax, I presume. I freaked out, trying to figure out what to say or do. I was doing mental gymnastics over this. The breaking point came this weekend when my wife told me she booked a trip for herself to go to Seb's hometown where a concert is playing. My wife acted as if this was planned, but yet sprung it on me. Again, I didn't know what to say as I was scared of what may come out. As my wife was in the shower getting ready for her flight, I looked in her suitcase. She packed lingerie, stockings, and sexy nighties that she's not worn in years for me. I broke down and confronted her about everything. She explained that nothing ever happened. She explained that Seb was having issues at home, so they would talk about how bad their marriage was. Seb works in an industry that my wife has an interest in, and she said she would discuss this with him. She said I was way off. She left to go on her trip, and I've spent my weekend wondering if I should be in the house when she comes home. I feel betrayed. I feel lied to, or she's told half-truths. She's confided about our marriage problems to a stranger. I know the irony of doing this here. He sent erotica voice notes to her. She's packed lingerie to his hometown hotel for the weekend. These are the facts from my end. I know I'm far from perfect. I just want someone else's take on this as I have no one to turn to. Now for an update. Hi everyone. I just want to say thanks for the responses. I wish this story was fake and made up. And reading back, I realize I put my head in the sand and tried to make things work. This is the woman I love and wanted to spend the rest of my life with. The signs were there, and I was blind or too stupid to see them. So she came back to an empty house. I had packed my things up and took the dog to a friend's place where I've had a hard week coming to terms. But it's over. I told her everything I knew and that we were done, and she tried to gaslight me and guilt me into taking her back. At present, I'm couch surfing on a friend's sofa until I can sort things out. I'm trying to stay positive, but at 33, I'm starting again, laughing out loud. Thanks for the slap I needed. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Why on earth did you ignore all these red flags for so long? She has been having a long-term online affair, and this trip has made it officially a physical affair. He has already seen pictures of your wife's private parts, so he has had plenty of time to plan his strategy. He's been reading erotica to her, and now he gets to bring it to life. Meanwhile, you let it happen. You should have dug for hard evidence and then divorced her, not confronted her. Sorry, dude, but if you stick around, it's not going to be pretty. It's a lot harder to be walked on when you are standing up. Update me. Comment 2. She's going to sleep with him if she hasn't already. How the hell did she explain packing the lingerie? Call a divorce attorney and have her served the day she comes back, and have her belongings in garbage bags on the porch upon her return. Now for the update. I'm really focusing on getting my life back on track and moving forward after the whole marriage disaster, and it's been going pretty well. So, 2 days after I packed up and moved out, my soon-to-be ex-wife came home to an empty house. I left a note telling her I was gone. I figured there was no point in a big dramatic goodbye, especially since I know she was planning a big dramatic trip to see her emotional support guy. She sent me a bunch of texts, all demanding to know where I was and wanting to talk. I ignored them, though. I was too busy trying to settle into my buddy Mark's apartment. Mark lived solo in a 2-bedroom place, so he let me crash in his second room for as long as I needed. He even made sure I had my own space and privacy. He was a really good friend. To help me get my mind off things, Mark decided to throw a casual game night with a few other friends. We played some board games and video games, and it was a nice distraction, honestly. While we were in the middle of a game, my soon-to-be ex-wife called me. I let it ring. I just felt like if she really wanted to talk, she could have done it before I left, you know? She didn't care about my feelings then. So I just ignored the call and played another round of the game. The next day, I was at a coffee shop trying to get some work done when I saw Sarah, a mutual friend of ours, there. She asked how I was doing and said she was really sorry to hear about everything. She said she'd been looking for me. Apparently, my wife had been asking everyone where I was. I guess she was starting to realize that her actions had consequences. I told Sarah I was doing okay, just trying to take things one day at a time. I really didn't want to go into it with her, so I kept it vague. Later that week, Mark suggested we go to a local bar to unwind since I was feeling kind of down. I agreed. We were just hanging out, having a couple of beers and playing some pool. I was laughing and joking around with Mark, trying to take my mind off things. And that's when I saw them. My wife and Seb sitting at a table in the bar, laughing and sharing drinks like they were besties. I can't even describe the feeling that hit me. I was angry, but I was also just kind of over it all. So I just calmly walked up to their table and made my presence known. My wife looked shocked to see me, and Seb tried to play it cool, but you could feel the tension. I asked her directly if she was ready to talk about our issues. She brushed me off, acting like they were just friends hanging out. So I turned to her new bestie and said, "It's nice to finally meet the guy who's been texting my wife." Seb laughed awkwardly, trying to act like it was all a joke. But I wasn't joking. I left the bar after that, feeling like I just needed to be away from it all. The following week, my soon-to-be ex-wife messaged me and asked to meet up for dinner to talk about everything. I agreed, but decided to invite Mark along for support. At the dinner, she showed up looking really nervous, and she immediately started talking about how we could fix things. I had to interrupt her. I told her I was done trying to fix things that were broken. I knew about the explicit messages she had sent to Seb and how she had lied about the trip. She tried to brush it off, saying it was just a phase and that she really wanted to work on our marriage. I told her that I had moved on and wasn't interested in her attempts to reconcile. After that, she left in a huff, and Mark and I were kind of left sitting there. Mark encouraged me to start dating again, and honestly, it didn't sound so bad. A few days later, I met a girl named Lisa at a community volunteer event. We just hit it off, you know? We had a lot in common, and I enjoyed spending time with her. We were hanging out one day when I got a text from my wife accusing me of moving on too fast. I just calmly responded, wishing her well, but letting her know that I was focused on my new life now. After that, she started posting these vague, passive-aggressive messages on social media about betrayal and all that. So I decided to counteract her posts with my own, sharing some positive moments from my new life with Lisa. It felt good to show that her actions weren't going to ruin my life. Then my wife tried to reach out to Mark, asking him to talk to me on her behalf. Mark told me about it and made it clear he wasn't going to do that for her. It just solidified my decision to cut ties with her. I ended up blocking her on social media. I figured it was just better for my mental health. I've been focused on my new relationship with Lisa. We went to this local festival, and it was just a great time. We enjoyed the atmosphere and music together, and I just felt happy. We shared a laugh over this silly carnival game, and I realized how much I liked being around her. I've been through a lot, but I feel like I've turned things around for myself. I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I think about my ex and what she's dealing with now, but I don't dwell on it. This is my life now, and I'm going to make the most of it. Edit. My soon-to-be ex-wife's attempts to reconcile included a reminder of our joint savings account. I informed her I had already closed it. I moved on with my life and started dating Lisa. Am I the idiot for telling my husband's friend's wife about his creepy modeling request? There have been signs since 2019 that I totally missed. I'll try to keep this short. My husband has been close with him for about 14 years. They went to college together, and I've known all his girlfriends over the years. His first wife left him in 2018, kind of out of the blue. At least to us, it seemed to come out of nowhere. He was really depressed and tried to text me about things sometimes. If it got to be too much, I told him, "You should really talk to my husband about this, because I can't be his emotional support during this time." The biggest sign, when I look back now, is that he asked for my woman's opinion about whether he should tell someone something or not. I gave basic advice. He slowly revealed it was emotional in nature, and I gave him some scenarios of how that sort of situation would go and how it has gone for other people I know. I didn't hear about it since. He's been married to his second wife for 3 years now. They met on a dating app and married within 3 months. Kind of fast, but whatever. My parents also married within 3 months and have been together for 38 years now. It can work. Yesterday I received an alert that I had a snap on Snapchat from him. I never use it. I really have no use for it. It was deleted from my phone, but it texted me that I had a new snap. I installed and opened it to see him asking me if he could ask a quick question. I was like, "What's up?" He told me he had a friend who was paying $1,000 a session for a model and asked if I would be interested. I let him know immediately that it sounded super suspicious. I texted him to check if he was really snapping me. He was. I asked him what the photos were for because I'm not opposed to it, I guess, depending on the usage. He revealed it's for a private portfolio, not to be shared with anyone at any time, online or otherwise, per agreement with the photographer. Immediate red flag. I text my husband and said, "Your friend is being really weird right now." I told him what was going on and asked if he thought his phone was stolen. Husband calls him and then proceeds to get a confession from him with no prompting. The pictures were really for him. He was going to be the photographer. He just wanted pictures of me because he finds comfort in looking at me and so on. He's going through a hard time, etc. Husband tells him to get lost, essentially referred him to a therapist, and tells me to block him. So, should I tell his wife that her husband tried to pay me $1,000 for pictures of me? For only him? Like, what the heck do I even do? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Why do you feel the need to hurt someone else by involving his wife? You did the right thing by telling your boyfriend. It's your boyfriend's best friend, so let him deal with it. If you like drama, tell the wife. If not, just never be alone with him. Comment 2. Just to verify, you are 22? So back in 2019, when there were signs, you were what, 17? Edit. I get it, guys. I read that a few times and it just didn't click. One of those days. Thanks for letting me know. Now for the update. A week later, while I was at work, my husband called me and asked me to meet him at a nearby coffee shop. He was super serious, which made me really nervous. I thought something bad happened, but it was actually about his friend. He told me that he confronted him about the modeling offer during a casual lunch. He insisted it was all innocent and claimed he was just trying to boost my confidence with the modeling offer. I rolled my eyes at that excuse. Like, really? My husband also put his wife on speaker during the lunch, which was kind of awkward. She was worried about her husband's mental health, saying he has been distant lately. Apparently, he has been seeing a therapist on and off, but hasn't made much progress, so no surprise there. A few days later, I went to a family birthday party for my niece at my sister's house. It was supposed to be a fun day, but then the friend and his wife showed up out of nowhere. The mood changed when I saw him, and not in a good way. He came up to me and made a light joke about the modeling offer, acting like nothing was wrong. I wanted to tell him off, but my husband stepped in to change the subject. You could tell he was really uncomfortable. At dinner, the friend's wife said she had been planning a surprise anniversary trip for them, which made me feel sad. I noticed the friend's mood changing as he seemed distracted during dinner, not really paying attention. Later, I overheard them arguing in the kitchen about his recent behavior. She was upset about feeling alone, and he snapped back that he was trying to work on himself. I felt so bad for her. I went outside for some fresh air and saw him sitting alone on the porch, looking troubled. We talked briefly, and he admitted he felt overwhelmed by life, hinting at regrets about his past marriage. I tried to console him, but he got defensive, insisting he didn't need help. I didn't know what to say to that. A week later, the friend's wife reached out to me, asking to meet up for coffee. We met at a local cafe, and she shared that she found some questionable messages on her husband's phone. My stomach dropped when she mentioned that her husband had a tendency to reach out to old friends, especially females. As we talked more, she admitted that she was considering couples therapy because she felt disconnected from him. She was worried he might be hiding something from her, and I could see the pain in her eyes. I remembered my husband's advice about telling her about the inappropriate photo request. Then she asked me straight up if I knew anything about her husband's recent behavior. I hesitated for a moment, but I decided to share the modeling offer incident. I tried to be gentle because I knew it would shock her. Her face turned pale as she processed the information, and I felt awful. I suggested she confront her husband about it, but she seemed unsure. Days passed, and I got a call from my husband saying the friend was furious with me. Apparently, he confronted his wife about our conversation, claiming she was spreading lies. At a family gathering, the atmosphere was so tense, and they were avoiding each other big time. I noticed he had been drinking heavily and acting out during the event. My husband was worried about both of them, and so was I. After the gathering, he expressed his concern for both the friend and his wife. The friend's wife reached out again to say she needed time to think about their future. She ultimately decided to stay with her family for a while to clear her head. I think that's a good idea. I learned that the friend had stopped going to therapy completely, which really worries me. I don't know what will happen next, but I'm scared for her. Am I the idiot for telling my girlfriend I won't raise our kids in her religion? My girlfriend and I have been together for 2 years. I truly feel that she is the love of my life. Everything has gone so well for so long. I still get butterflies when I see her, and I still feel sad when she has to go home, and I know I won't see her for a few days. I love her. Now, she and I are both Christians. She, however, is far more religious than I am. I am closer to agnostic than Christian, in all honesty, but I do believe in Jesus. She is a Bible literalist, and she believes in everything from chapter 1 of Genesis and onward, including that the earth is young or something like that, and that evolution is not real. Personally, that doesn't really bother me. I don't really care. It doesn't come up in normal conversation. I'm just saying that's the difference in our views. For a long time, I always thought that I would raise my kids to be Christians. I always thought I would take them to church on Sundays and teach them about God and whatnot. But here's where the awful realization comes. So for background, I have serious anxiety issues. Now, I was raised Christian. I believed in God my whole upbringing, But my family wasn't super religious. They just wanted to provide a foundation in Christianity for me. So I always believed it. But when I got to college, something just hit me like a truck. It occurred to me that I may be wrong. It occurred to me that I may die and become nothing, that there may be no afterlife, that I'd never see my family and friends and loved ones ever again for all of eternity. It destroyed me, and I spiraled into an insane depression. I could not eat and I could not sleep. I had to drop out of school, and I went back to live with my parents. I lost 25 pounds and was an absolute wreck for over a year. It was without a doubt the worst time of my life. The reason this is important to me is that I know for 100% certain that if I can help it, I do not want my kids to go through what I did. I would normally say it's just me, but my dad told me he went through something extremely similar when he was that age. I think the reason for it was that I had this worldview that was given to me, not something I thought of for myself. And once I was exposed to reality, I finally started to question what I was forced to believe, and it shook my world to the core. I so deeply wish that I was able to come to my own conclusions about life, its meaning, and religion. That's the one thing I would change about my upbringing. I think if my beliefs came to me naturally, I wouldn't have experienced the worst depression of my life when I should have been living it up as a college freshman. So I told my girlfriend that I've been doing a lot of thinking and that I want to raise our kids neutrally. I want to allow them to come to their own conclusions about things. I want them to be free to believe in what they choose to believe as it comes to them, with some level of guidance. Like if they started getting into a cult, obviously that's a big no. But she steadfastly refused and said that is a deal breaker for her. In no way will her kids not be raised to be Christians. She's agreed she doesn't have to raise them to believe in creation and whatnot. It feels like a compromise, but I don't know if this is something I can compromise on or if I'm overreacting. If I'm overreacting, please tell me, laugh out loud. I just truly, deeply do not want my kids to go through the hell of having their entire worldview come crashing down on them and destroying their happiness as kids or young adults. I'd never, ever forgive myself. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I don't know. How devout is she? Because if you fall away from the religion, she may fall away from you since you all are not equally yoked. My boyfriend and I are about to break up. I'm pretty sure since I'm agnostic and he's Christian, my heart is absolutely broken, shattered. But I hold on to hope that I will find someone who has similar values as I do. It will make things easier for me. My boyfriend wants no intimacy before marriage. It feels weird lying next to him in bed, knowing he has these values that I don't share, but we are just abiding by this religion I don't believe in. It feels so strange. Also, there are other things he feels conviction about now. Halloween, secular music, cuss words, smoking, drinking. We don't really align anymore. It breaks my heart, but he will be happier with someone that aligns with him. As will I. I guess you just have to decide how devout she is and tell her you don't want to force this religion on the kids. I don't know if this was helpful. I've just found it very hard to be in a relationship with someone that you don't share similar values with. Comment 2. I think you talk about it in real-world scenarios. What does raised Christians mean to both of you, and where are the deal breakers? Do we go to church as a family? How often? What happens if the kids don't want to go as much? What happens if a child says they don't believe in the same thing as either parent? What happens if one day the child chooses a partner that doesn't share the same faith? I think this is where you have real conversations and decide if your version of exposure to religion is going to be a deal breaker for your girlfriend. Spoiler alert, kids are going to only be followers of their parents' wishes for a narrow window of time anyway. So eventually, you may have a child who challenges your plans anyway. It's more understanding if your future wife will choose to love your kids through those questions, force an agenda, or disown kids that don't comply. Now for the update. A week passed since the last talk with Olivia about raising kids with our clashing beliefs. And believe me, it was a week of silence, and not the good kind. But life doesn't just stop because you're stuck in your relationship. So I kept busy with work and my usual routine. Then, Olivia sent me an invite to her church's annual Harvest Festival. I thought, why not? Maybe some fun games and food stalls would ease the tension between us. I would even try to act like a good boyfriend and get into the spirit of the thing. So I agreed to go. When I arrived, there were games, food stalls, a petting zoo for the kids, and a ton of people. Olivia was dressed in the cutest pumpkin outfit ever, and for a moment, I forgot about our issues. We walked around, and she introduced me to her church friends. Everyone was super friendly, and it was nice seeing Olivia in her element. But then, things got awkward. This woman, Sarah, started talking about how she raised her kids with strict Christian values. I was trying to be all smiles and nods, but then she shared a story about her son struggling with doubts about faith. Yeah, that hit a little close to home, and I think Olivia noticed. After Sarah walked away, Olivia confronted me. We stepped outside the festival, where no one could see us. She was all fired up, accusing me of trying to undermine her faith with my views. I was like, hold on, I'm not attacking your beliefs, I just want to talk about these things openly. But she wasn't having it. She stormed off, leaving me standing alone in the parking lot, looking pretty sad. The next day, Olivia sent me this long text outlining all her frustrations. I read it and just felt completely drained. So, I decided to reach out to my parents for advice. They always had good advice, so I invited them over for dinner to discuss the situation. During dinner, I mentioned the disagreement I had with Olivia. My mom got this look on her face and shared that she had faced similar challenges with my dad early in their marriage. She suggested setting some boundaries on discussions about religion. It clicked for me. I needed to talk to Olivia again. So I invited her over for a cozy dinner at my place, hoping we could clear the air. Olivia arrived with a tense expression, and we sat down to eat together. The conversation started off slow, like we were both walking on eggshells. Then I brought up my mom's advice. Olivia listened, but insisted that her beliefs were non-negotiable when it came to our future kids. I was getting frustrated, feeling like I was being pushed out of the conversation. I mentioned this to her, and she challenged me, saying I needed to respect her perspective. We ended up arguing about the implications of raising kids in a strict environment. It was one of those conversations that just left you feeling exhausted. Then, a few days later, Olivia invited me to her family's Thanksgiving dinner. I thought, what the heck? Let's see how that goes. At dinner, Olivia's dad asked about our plans for the future. Olivia confidently stated that we would raise our kids as Christians. I mean, everyone was cool with it, but inside, I felt this knot in my stomach. After dinner, I excused myself to the kitchen for a moment. You know how it goes. But then I overheard Olivia discussing our future kids with her mom. She was emphasizing strict values. I returned to the table feeling more resolved about my stance. I decided I needed to write Olivia a message about how we really needed to have a serious talk. The following weekend, we met at a local coffee shop to discuss our future. I focused on finding a compromise that respected both our beliefs. After a long discussion, we ultimately reached a new understanding on how to approach the topic moving forward. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Edit. This past weekend, Olivia and I took a trip to a nearby state park for a little getaway. We figured some time away from our usual surroundings might help us bond better. The drive was nice, and we listened to some of our favorite songs. By the time we got there, we were in a pretty good mood. We checked in at this cute little cabin and spent the evening cooking dinner together. Afterward, we went outside to enjoy the stars. Honestly, it felt great. The next day, we went hiking, and that's when we really opened up to each other. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.